What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Justin, this is Movie Watch, and today we will be discussing The Tax Collector. Tax Collector was written and directed by David Ayer and stars Bobby Soto and Shia LaBeouf as David and Creeper, two debt collectors or tax collectors working for a mysterious imprisoned crime boss whose lives are suddenly threatened when a rival crime boss, Canyejo, threatens to stop playing ball and take over their territory. Now, I have been looking forward to The Tax Collector for a long time for a couple of reasons. It seemed like David Ayer was going back to his roots as far as directing a really super gritty LA crime movie, and Shia LaBeouf's performance as Creeper looked crazy. It seemed like we were going to get a really cool movie, and upon watching the movie, I have to say, I'm a little disappointed for a couple of reasons. Is David Ayer going back to his roots as far as an LA crime movie? Yes, but really not a lot new that David Ayer is doing with these characters or with this plot. It's kind of just autopilot and nothing really interesting happens here, especially as far as the character development is concerned. The two main characters we're following, David and Creeper, we really learn very little about them. They tell us we're supposed to be super scared of Creeper, Shia LaBeouf's character, but they really don't show us why. They have him standing in a corner looking menacing and we're supposed to be super scared, but really we're just looking at Shia LaBeouf in a pair of sunglasses acting tough. There's a couple of flashback sequences of him with some blood on his face, and apparently that's supposed to let us know that he's super scary, but I really didn't get that from the performance or his background. David's character, we do get a little bit of his family life at home. The movie opens up with his wife and his kids, and you see he's kind of a family man who goes off and does this gnarly tax collecting stuff during the day, but that's about as deep as it goes. Those are our main characters who we are following throughout the film, who we know very little about. A lot of the standard David Ayer stuff is here. We get a really claustrophobic environment, a minimal cast as we kind of follow them throughout their day. We see David and Creeper talking about mundane things like Creeper's new ketogenic diet, David talking about his wife. As we've seen this in Harsh Times, we've seen it in End of Watch, we've seen it in Training Day, where we follow two characters as they kind of just cruise the streets and go about their day, which is disappointing as the last couple David Ayer movies were a little bit of a letdown. We had Bright for Netflix, we had Suicide Squad, everybody knows how that turned out, but on the other hand, Shia LaBeouf has really been turning out some very interesting performances in Honey Boy, which he wrote and directed. Now, if you're still looking at Shia LaBeouf as the guy from Transformers or Indiana Jones, you should really look into his past few films as he's really grown as an actor. Unfortunately, the mark is just missed. Everything just kind of bubbles on the surface. The villain we get is very underdeveloped. He's kind of just dropped into the story and we're supposed to like be super scared of him just because he's like, you're not my boss anymore. I'm not gonna pay you. I'm gonna kill your whole family. And especially after the second act when the villain is I call him the villain. They kind of make him out to be this devil worshipping kind of chicken sacrificing monster. The movie, this is like the closest Ayer has gone to like horror movie territory. And one scene we see Canyejo, this big bad gangster guy, sacrificing an actual person and a chicken, and it's really super weird and dark. So after we meet Canyejo and he says he's not playing ball with David and Creeper's characters, that's when they kind of retreat because they know at that moment they really can't defend themselves and it's just a death sentence if they try to fight this guy. They kind of retreat and plan to retaliate, at which point Canyejo just starts hitting hard. I won't get into plot elements, but at this point Creeper and David realize they have to have some kind of revenge and defend their criminal empire. And from then on, the movie just sort of devolves into standard action tropes and revenge tropes that we've seen before. It's super undercooked. It's not very interesting. This is stuff we've seen in David Ayer movies as well as gangster and action movies before, which is really disappointing, like I said, because he seems to be fairly good at bringing decent performances out of the actors. I wish he maybe would have just got someone to help him out with the script, as the script just kind of falls flat for me personally. Now, David Ayer is an interesting guy. He's an interesting director. If you look into his history, he was born in Champaign, Illinois, and then at some point in his teens, he was actually kicked out of his house and ended up staying with a family member in South Central LA, which he was exposed to the criminal elements that definitely influenced his movies and his style of filmmaking. Of course, he wrote Training Day. His directorial debut was Harsh Times, Times with Christian Bale. I would say Tax Collector has the most in common probably with Harsh Times. Shia LaBeouf and Christian Bale's character are almost the same person. They're kind of interchangeable. Both Christian Bale and Shia LaBeouf use a Mexican accent in the movie, which is a little weird. Throughout this movie, I was wondering, is Shia LaBeouf playing a Latino or Mexican character, or has he just been around this element so much that the inflection has just kind of ingrained in him? You really don't know, but that was a little bit of a off-putting thing, him using an accent throughout the movies, like, hey Holmes, what's up Holmes, hey fool, like, it's like, all right, well, I'm not buying that. There's a couple unique performances. George Lopez plays David's character's uncle, and he gives kind of a cool performance. It was neat seeing him not be in a comedy role. He plays like kind of a criminal mob boss type of guy, and it actually works. He's not a bad actor at all. All the actors do a fine job with the material that they were given. There's not a lot of meat on the bones of the script, and that just kind of makes the rest of the movie fall flat. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the worst movie this year. I've seen some reviewers saying this movie is the worst movie of the years, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's just aggressively average. There is some cool scenes and bursts of violence that are kind of shocking. It's definitely one of the more violent movies that David Ayer's done. Not giving away any plot points or characters, there's a point in the movie where a guy's face is ground on the pavement from a moving car, and his face is brought up to show his exposed bones and teeth and stuff, and it's super gnarly to look at. There is some cool scenes here and there. Listen, this is not the worst movie I've ever seen. I paid $6 to rent it. I think it's only about an hour and a half, so it's not a big time commitment if you just want to put something on and just watch it. Huge fans of David Ayer and gangster movies might get something out of this. It's a decent watch with some decent performances, as long as you don't mind a shallow plot line and not a lot of character development. This wasn't the first time that Shia LaBeouf and David Ayer had come together for a project. They were in Fury together, the war movie, which was actually a super cool movie. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend that movie. It's a much better execution of their collaboration. You can clearly tell they like working for each other. Shia LaBeouf trusts David Ayer as a director. I think they have a lot of fun working together. Hopefully they can bring it together for a better movie next time, because this one just fell a little flat. But listen guys, that's all I have for The Tax Collector. Definitely check the playlist for other videos you might enjoy on the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.
I love movies. Gosh, I love movies. I love watching them, and I love making them.
Nah, I can't do it.